Why should business architects care about polymorphism? This sounds scary, but I promise you that this important concept is simple to understand, and so you can start using it in design and architect businesses in a way that makes customers happy and makes the business happy. But first, hit that subscribe button and click on the bell icon to be notified of new videos on architecture and AI that I share every other week. Polymorphism is an elegant concept, and I've used it in object-oriented programming. When we brought over many of the architectural concepts over to the business, this one seems to have been left behind. And therefore, you don't have a good way of modeling this in business architecture. But don't worry. I'll show you what it is and throw out some ideas on how to model this concept in business architecture. Because this is a real concept and we better learn how to model it. Say you buy a plane ticket to go on a romantic trip with your partner. You can get a cramped economy class, a comfortable business class, or a pampered first class ticket. Obviously, the airline provides different levels of services for each of these classes. In economy, you are stuck with soda and chips, while in first class, you might have your option of main entrees to choose from served on real china accompanied by a glass of wine. Still, whatever the class, economy or first or business, you all fly on the same plane, you are piloted by the same captains, and your baggage goes through the same system of handling, though the airline will try to slap on a first class tag onto your bags for first class passengers so that the baggage handler may be a little more careful when throwing your bag. The different levels of passenger service are offered on top of this common infrastructure. In this example, for economy, business, and first class passengers. A different model could have been that each class of passengers fly on different planes, one being more luxurious than the other, and have different systems of handling bags. But that wouldn't be efficient for the airlines. On the other extreme of the scale, if all passengers were treated the same, then it's easy for the business to implement its operations, but it cannot cater to different class of passengers and will lose a lot of revenue. In today's business environment, where each customer would like to be treated as an individual with her needs and wants taken into account, full standardization will not help the business adapt to changing business needs, and the business will ultimately fail if it cannot transform itself to meet its customers' needs. So what does this mean for business architects who have to design such customer experiences? Immediately, you'll notice that there are some common parts to the whole end-to-end customer experience that can be used for all parts of the spectrum of services. If you see this pattern and think that you can come up with many more such examples in real life, type in the word agree in the comment section below. That'll really help me. For many businesses, this could show up as a conflict because on one hand, they want to provide hyper customization to make their customers happy, while on the other hand, they want to provide super standardization to optimize their own operations. A business architect's job is to understand the reality of the environment and design customer experiences that are remarkable within the constraints of reality while architecting the organization for flexibility and scale. Some scenarios might call for extreme customization, while others might call for extreme standardization. But most businesses will fall somewhere in the middle. Using the same foundational parts for different classes of services is fundamentally the concept of polymorphism. Polymorphism is not restricted to class of services, but it appears in a wide range of business scenarios. For example, when you design software for both novice and advanced users, much of the underlying infrastructure and processes might be the same. But for the novice, you might offer a wizard-based approach of interaction, while for the advanced user, you might offer direct access to some functionality. TurboTax is designed this way. Here's another example. When a company onboards a new employee, that person would go through some training to familiarize himself with the company. But if the new employee was a manager, she might skip some of the basic training and go through additional training, say on people management and diversity. Likewise, the employee may go through additional training that's not relevant for the manager. Here's another one. When you visit the doctor's office, no matter what you're in there for, the nurse will start measuring your height, which by the way has not changed for me in 40 years, weight, blood pressure, all this before you even talk to the doctor. But here you will find only one class of service for everyone. And we all have to go through the registration, give our insurance cards, go through the mechanics of the measurements and different treatments. So is there an opportunity here for hospitals and providers to provide better customer service if the patient is willing to pay for it? Now do you see why business architects come across different scenarios quite frequently? But since we don't have a name for it, we don't necessarily have a structured way of dealing with it. If you recognize this pattern, then perhaps we should be modeling this pattern to call it out specifically. So how do you model this concept of polymorphism? In a way, we just did, but I also want to introduce you to two other simple ideas. One idea is that we have to recognize some form of entity, which in our example happens to be people with different needs that are sent through different experiences. And each of these experiences are remarkable in its own way. The second idea is that you could think of these entities, again in our case people, to be lining up in some sort of a virtual queue to go through the experiences that you have just designed for them. In this airline example, you might have an economy class passenger followed by a business class passenger, followed by another economy class passenger, followed by a first class passenger, etc. Go through your customer experiences that you have tailored for each of them. With these two ideas, here is how you can represent the entities and the experience that each type of entity goes through, even calling out the different types of entities visually, as I have shown here. Of course, this is just one way to do it, and perhaps it triggers some thoughts on how you would approach this modeling. Let me know in the comment section below if you have other ideas to share. If you enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing. You can also head over to my website and subscribe to my mailing list. Thank you.